with the world of philosophy, with the world of literature, with the world of history. Non-Muslims, people like Nehru and Gandhi and Emerson and Brown, and people like Oakley, nothing to do with the religion. But the principles of this religion were always meant to be for every human being. And that's why someone may ask, okay, but these are 18th century figures. No, they're 19th century figures. No, said Ammar, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Some of them 17th, 16th, maybe some in the mid-20th. Give us someone contemporary. You know, I looked and looked for someone contemporary last year when I was doing research as to whether a non-Muslim who lives a real fantastic material life would be affected by Ahlulbayt. Gandhi didn't live a material life. He could be affected. Others didn't live a material life. Then I came across one person who left everything and more you could have in this world because of Ahlulbayt and the principles of Ahlulbayt. Imagine you're the inheritor to the dynasty which owns Lamborghini. It's not a bad life, is it? It's alright, I suppose. And, oh sorry, by the way, your dad also owns Ferrari. So, that's not bad as well. And Alfa Romeo and Fiat, the companies, are just side companies. You know, if anyone wants them, they're more than welcome. And you know all this Gucci and Prada and the houses of Dior and Vuitton? Yeah, his dad owns the buildings for them in Milan and Rome. It's alright. It would be useful. Further than that, the banks in Rome are all his dad's. And Juventus Football Club, the famous Juventus, that's his dad's side hobby. So the fortune he was going to inherit wasn't too much, it was only $60 billion. And someone will say, but would it be shared? No, it wouldn't, because he's the only son. So what was this dynasty called? The Agnelli dynasty in Italy. The Agnellis are the most powerful family in Italy. That's what they own. And sometimes if they're feeling bored, they may give one of those companies away to their friends. So sometimes you don't want your Ferrari, so you give them as birthday presents to friends. This Edoardo was his dad's beloved son. All he knows about is Catholicism, and he goes to study in Princeton. He's going to study religion and philosophy in Princeton. He comes across the Quran. When he comes across the Quran, he has never seen principles espoused ethically like the principles of the Quran. The principles about parents, and the principles about neighbors, and the principles about sons and daughters and family life, they have a profound effect on him. When he returns from Princeton to Rome, he wants to go to the Iranian embassy. Why? Because he hears that the great and so on grandson of the man who bought the Quran has just done a revolution in Iran. And he wants to go to the embassy. Why? Because the great and so on grandson has a purity in his face which has affected him. So he's wondered, if that's the purity 1,000 years later, then how was the purity of the ones he came from? So he went to the Iranian embassy on a Sunday. So he's knocked at the door, security guards come out. How can I help you? He says, I want to see the ambassador. He says to him, sorry, who are you? He says, tell him Edoardo Agnelli. So he goes to tell the ambassador, Mr. Iranian ambassador has just woken up that day. So he's like, tell him Sunday is my day off. So the security said to him, sir, it's Agnelli. He said, which Agnelli? He said, Agnelli. He said, as in Agnelli? He said, Agnelli. He said, Fiat, Agnelli, Alfa Romeo, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Juventus, all the banks, all the designers. Agnelli. He said, tell him we don't have any days off at this embassy. He's more than welcome to come inside. So when he came in, he said to him, why did you tell me the door was closed? He said, you know, it's a Sunday. He said, Allah's doors are always open. Agnelli tells the ambassador, Allah's doors are always open. And then he says to him, I want to ask you something. That Khomeini is from the line of the family of the Prophet? He said to him, yes. He said, and I read that they were 1,300 years back or so? He said, yes. He said, so if he's from the line, then how pure is the essence of that line? He said, I want to know more about the family. I've read in the Quran, but something alongside the Quran is missing. And surely it's the message of Ali and his sons that I want to adopt. They said to him, but Agnelli, what if your dad finds out? Your dad's from the hierarchy of Italy and a Catholic. He said, let all that wealth of the world go, because I have the wealth of holding on to Hussein, son of Ali. Look at that line. I tell you, can we leave wealth like that? His dad disowned him. At the end, he was poverty stricken. He couldn't afford money to go from a taxi from one place to the other. Imagine. The son of that dynasty left all of this until a few years back. They said Edoardo Agnelli committed suicide because of a jumping off a bridge on his way to his dad's home. Suicide? As in when there's one inheritor to the royal throne, to that particular throne, it was suicide what he did? Ask anyone who saw him in Rome and also in Iran from the scholars who met him. They will all say to you that he kept in touch with us in Laylatul Qadr. He would read the dua in Muharram. He'd organize the majalis. He'd give money from himself regularly. But at the end, they couldn't take the fact that a member of their family may come out and say he's Muslim, and they finished him off completely. But what's the principle? Did Agnelli look at a group of Muslims who wanted to push him away? No. He looked at a purity of an Islamic belief where the principles of justice and rising against oppression and speaking out for the truth and the ethical values of the religion, that's what made Agnelli leave everything and come towards Islam. And that's why through a person like Agnelli teaches us a lesson that never ever think a non-Muslim cannot be affected by Ahlulbayt. Show me a non-Muslim far away from Al Muhammad, but I'll show you the truth of Al Muhammad will reverberate in their hearts. And that's why the famous Hindu philosopher Dr. Krishnan, when he says in his lines, although Hussein died 1,300 years ago, the indestructible soul of Hussein still rules the hearts of many. Let's make sure that that soul of Hussein remains alive in our action.